Do we have a quorum? Let's see. We have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
All right, the meeting would please come to order. I want to ask everyone to please turn off their phones. Again, I want everyone to know that's presenting today that any presentation over 30 seconds will knock off 2 votes. So, no, not really. But Senator, then I understand you need to go. You have a meeting. Then we're going to take Senator Liggins. And I understand you have a bill you're going to be carrying for a very special person. I know it is, and I'm talking about from the House, right? The very important bill. We got to get it out tomorrow. Now you got to help me. Didn't hit it today, so we're gonna get it tomorrow. Though I know you are, but I appreciate you. All right. So if you would tell us, please, what your bill is, and you have anyone presenting with you today. All right. If they would come on forward with you, then. And this is you're going to be hearing your bill, Senator. I think is 132. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
All right.
I'm looking at the top. Limit calling 336199.
If you would just eat that microphone.
Better?
That is good, yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at, and forgive the way I do it, Lima Charlie 336199 dash Echo Charlie Sierra.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and
Loud and clear.
Loud and good. Go to it. You're clear for takeoff.
from what I understand, Representative Coomer presented well for me the other day when I was stuck in another one, and y'all requested one change, and I think you'll see that adjustment on line 93.
That's correct.
So I wanted to ensure that y'all had that, and then
We're not on the right LC.
It's not 99, 6199.
It's supposed to be 336.01. Yeah.
All right, say that again. We're on the wrong. All right.
They told me it was okay for the meeting.
Pardon?
They told me that was okay.
okay,
Okay.
we're going to try this.
Okay.
Request a change now to 336201.
We don't have that. We don't have that one in here, do we? Is that a?
Let's try this one.
What's the only change between?
Just tell us the only change. Well, look at this bill and tell us the only change in. I'm asking everyone to look at LC 336199-ECS, and if you would tell us what's different from that one.
If you don't mind, I'll have Mrs. Hames.
I think that would be a good choice.
Thank you.
Okay, they are very, very similar. The only change is on line 169, mandatory and was added prior to non-course related fees. This was brought to you in subcommittee on Friday. Then when there was a later change made in the sub in Legislative Council, this change didn't get back in. Betsy called it later and got it back in, and so this is the final version. Betsy, any difference there? Yeah, that's correct. And also F1 is changed where the Department of Freedom.
Randy, was that in your subcommittee? Was that yours, Mike?
Randy.
It was in Mike's. It's in Mike's subcommittee.
It was in Randy's subcommittee.
It was in Randy's subcommittee.
It was in Randy's.
It was in your subcommittee, and it passed out unanimously. Okay. All right, once again, I don't want to rush anything. Once again, let's talk about the change. What is the change now? It's on line, what you said, Aaron, it's line 169.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And it's just the two words, mandatory and it's just matching the same language that's at line 164, which is that they waive all mandatory and non-course related fees. And then again at 169, mandatory and non-course related.
That's what it says now, mandatory.
Yes.
No, you don't. Now, listen, y'all, you won't have that on this one. What we're doing, we're using the open, she's sure what new language is in it.
But can we read 168, 169?
The way you change
Read the old and show us what, because they don't have, where they know that, the old, okay. All right, here we go, 168, 169, the way it is that what we have.
I got it. So starting at line 168, provide course books to eligible, this is in the version you have, it says provide.
Course books, that's it.
No.
That doesn't match up.
No, I'm sorry. At line 1, in the version you have, at line 168, it should say, accept the amount paid by the commission as full payment for an eligible high school student's tuition, non-course related fees, and course books. Is that what yours says?
No, that's
Listen, that's on line, the one we have, that's on line 170.
I think we ought to get copies of this LC.
Yeah, why don't I hate to do that, but let's get some copies of that. Shayna, if you, the
Right.
one she's going to give you. Could y'all just let me, just 2 seconds, let's let Senator, and if you have to go, Senator, we'll let them present, if you have to slip away, because I know you have another meeting. But if you need to go, we can let Aaron and our fine representative there. So at this time, if we could, let's bring Senator Ligon forward and go ahead and hear his. I have a couple of questions, and I guess you want to hold them when we get back. We'll get
I
back.
was trying to do that to get you to let him read it, because I knew it wasn't.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't right. All right, we're going to take it. All right, Senator Ligon, you're here to present 2 bills, I understand, and they were in Mike Dudgeon's committee.
Yes.
Senator Representative Dudgeon, and Representative, what bills were they?
They were, SR 80 is the one that I had on the calendar today. I didn't know until I walked in that you had the other one, but I can present it.
We have SR 80 and Senate Bill 116 that he has, all right? So what was your recommendation for the 2 bills, Representative Dudgeon?
We had recommendation of do pass for Senate Resolution 80 by substitute,
All right.
and do pass for Senate Bill 116.
Okay, so let's do 80 first then.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, the College Board owns the AP History exams, and they write a framework.
Right up to your mic.
They write a framework, and there's been a revision to it. It's gone from a 5-page to an 80-page framework, and as you read through it, I would just encourage each member to read through it. You can see that there is an obvious bias or political perspective to it. If anyone is interested, I have examples that are clearly documented word for word from the framework. It's going from the basic theme under American identity, and this basically captures it all, is that under the prior framework, we looked at America through the theme of American exceptionalism. Under the new framework, that's very weakened, and we're looking at America through race, class, and gender identities. The positives of our past and history have been diminished, and the negatives are highlighted. And the resolution does not call on the state to withdraw from the AP program. It's just encouraging the College Board to go back to the prior framework. We had extensive hearings in a joint meeting between the Senate and the House. These were all highlighted. The College Board representatives were there. They admitted that there were problems with it. On one particular item, they said that it was the low point of the framework. So I do think that they're working on it. But it also became obvious that there was a monopoly and that some competition would do well. And the resolution seeks to encourage that competition, and perhaps there could be other organizations that could step up and offer another program that would be acceptable as well. So that's the essence of the resolution.
Do you mind if this, I'd like to call on Representative Dudgeon, because he and I worked with you very closely, and I know he did, and we met with the College Board and the subcommittee. We talked about that. So would you please tell, Mike, could you just comment a little bit on that? Because I think, of course, this is a House substitute,
Yes.
and it's been changed a good bit, but I think it's a very good version now. Could you make some comments about what was done?
Sure, and just to be clear, the substitute is LC 430153S, and Chairman Coleman, myself, Representative Rice, and some others worked on this for a couple of days, and it contains substantially the same points that were in the Senate version. Language is a little bit, I guess, softer in the fact that it's not allowing some room for past disagreement, whether the House and the Senate are presenting their opinions, but it still materially does the same thing, which is it calls for the College Board to make a balanced framework. It calls them to align the test with a balanced framework. It calls for more free market competition in the advanced placement field, and so it still materially does the same thing, just the language was changed to be a little bit softer.
Any questions from committee members? It was vetted very, very extensively in the subcommittee, and like I said, there's a lot of work going into this from all groups. So any comments? I see none. Do I have a motion?
Do pass.
I have 2 do passes. Do I have a second? I have seconds everywhere. So any further questions? If not, all in favor of the Senate Resolution 80? I have a 19. I'm sorry. Representative Glanton, you have a question, all right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I believe that we discussed this while we were going around the state.
We
had
did.
presentations to come to us. One of my concerns, Mr. Chairman, was not so much of what we're trying to put in. I just want to make sure, we talk about negative history, we want to make sure that we're not excluding anything that has to do with the dark period that we had, because it too is history.
Oh, absolutely.
And we want to make sure that, in particular, the missing pages in regards to African Americans are included in this history program. So my question is it still in the history, and was anything taken out in relative to African Americans and their contributions to America?
Well, actually, in the new framework, African Americans who played a very significant, important part of the acquisition of voting rights and freedom and liberty were omitted. There's no mention of Dr. King, of Rosa Parks within the framework. I mean, they were glossed over and substituted with examples of the Black Panthers and others who did not hold the same ideals. The point is, yes, there has been very bad parts of our history, but it involved a struggle for liberty and equality for all people. Those points of liberty and equality have been minimized within the new framework, and we want to go back to that balance.
And I appreciate that, and I'm not suggesting that we highlight the bad parts. I just want to make sure that we have equity
You're right.
across the board when it comes to American
history. We
history.
look at the good, the bad, the ugly. But we're here, this is more focused on the bad and the ugly, and the good part, the things that have made this country what it is, have been minimized and changed. And we want to bring that back. Restore the balance. The word is balance.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And in this, there's no mandate, simply request.
That's right.
Okay? Any other questions? All right, I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Unanimous. So, Senator, you could go to rules. We want to help you out. So,
Thank you, Mr.
who's going to be carried in on the floor?
Who did you,
I know that we mentioned, I think that'd be good, and I'll work
Okay,
with
that'd
him
be
there.
great.
I'll work with him, and we'll go with you. But we do need you need to come to rules.
I will be.
Because that's where our rules require.
Right.
Now, if you go, in other words, they want the senator to come and request
Right,
it.
I'll do that.
All
Do
right.
you, we might could do
So it'll be tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Well, no, when do we get
No.
on? It'll
I can-
be for rules, that's right.
I can request it
It'll be Friday.
Friday.
You'll adjourn today, that's right, it'll be Friday.
That's right,
So
okay.
if you would now go to Senate Bill 116, I don't know if you're ready for it. Do you have a copy?
Well, I don't have a copy. I can do it by memory.
Well, we have your copy if you don't,
I have it.
okay?
Thank you, thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we had presented this bill last year, and we had made changes to it, ran it through your committee. It encourages during the school systems during the week of Constitution Day, September 17th, to spend 3 hours of instruction on our founding principles. It encourages the recitation of passages from the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. It also encourages posting of historical documents and the creation of online resources for our teachers. And so it has been worked on in both houses over the last year or so. It's not mandated, it's just an encouragement, and it also provides the schools the resources. The Department of Education is on board, they're able to do that.
I want to be sure that everyone understands, we're talking about the week of September the 17th.
That's right.
Would be that. That's not a mandate. It's
Not a
encouraging that to be declared.
That's
And it's
right.
encouraging the schools to do this, and encouraging the state board to provide some recommendations and schools to do some of this.
That's right.
All right, okay. And if you know the Senate, this is almost like a resolution. They do a bill that encourages like a resolution, which
Right.
is encouraged. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions? And I know Representative Benton had some good comments on this in subcommittee, I remember. So, anybody, questions? All right, do I have a motion? I have a motion to pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any questions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It did pass. Thank you so much. And you know there's a certain guy that's going to need a motion too tomorrow. So.
Yes, sir. We'll move it. Thank you.
Before we go any further, I would like to ask Patrick, you and Mason, stand up. Patrick, you and Mason, stand up. I want to introduce, first of all, I want y'all to meet someone that I'm so proud of. The first is Patrick. That's Patrick Malk. Raise your hand, Patrick. That's my grandson. And I'm proud he's taller than his papa. That's okay. He's got the height, and I wish I had his hair, but he's really good. I appreciate Patrick. That's my grandson. And next to him, you got Mason there, and Mason is Sheena's son. So we're glad to have you two young people there with us. And they're studying politics, and they're taking notes. They're not playing video games. I want you to know. Thank you. Who's carrying the Freedom Week? Mike? All right, and if he doesn't, he gets somebody else. Okay, Aaron, y'all ready yet? Okay. You don't give us, well, Senator Tippin, come on forward. I didn't see, did you just walk in? Well, I'm sorry, because I surely wouldn't have insulted you that way. I would have, because I still have some favors I made. No, I want to thank you so much for getting House Bill 91 out today.
Well, it was a pleasure to pass a good bill.
I appreciate that. All right, what do you have for us? And whose subcommittee was it in? In yours, Randy? What bill is it?
Senate Bill 156.
All right, 156, all right? Passed unanimously, okay? Everybody got that? Okay, Senator, I think I have a motion. Remember, like you said, brevity is wonderful, okay? So what do you want?
Do pass.
All right, do pass. You got to do pass, just tell us what we're passing. No.
It needs a second vote, we'll be in good shape.
All right, we got it. Tell us just quickly what it is.
I brought this bill at the request of the State Charter School Commission.
Yes.
They had requested the authority to establish a nonprofit foundation, a 501c3, for the purpose of raising private funds to be designated for the purposes of the State Charter School Commission to further that effort.
Yeah. And Bonnie's here, I think, isn't she? And she says she likes that. And who's going to be carrying it in the House? Belden, Representative Belden, okay.
Belden.
All right, any questions? I have one, Senator Glanton. Representative Glanton, I didn't mean to insult you, please excuse me.
They just gave you a raise.
If the senator wasn't present, I would say something, but since he's present,
Be careful, be careful.
I'll just take that as a mistake, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, bad mistake.
Okay, don't let it, but anyway, I'll just have to approve your time like that.
Okay, would you go ahead and do it?
Absolutely, I'd like to make a motion to pass, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed? All right, unanimous. All right.
Thanks so
So
much. Appreciate it.
we got your carrier and everything
come
else.
see us.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And I understand Title 20 is really ready to go, right? I know it. He told me it's wonderful. I'm proud of you. I heard you got it all done. Thank you. Sir? Okay. All right, good. I like it. All right, now, the next bill, are you ready now? Okay. Aaron, if y'all come forward. Representative Nimmer, you're going to be carrying it in the House?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Good, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know y'all want this quick, but I want to just apologize to you and the committee and the attendees in the audience for us not having the correct number earlier. I take responsibility for that, and I apologize.
Well, we forgive you. After the job we've had going on today, it's good to have any numbers, so we're glad to have you. I want to congratulate you, Aaron. I want
to thank you.
We're proud of what happened today, and we're proud of the committee, and with all these people here, and a fine job. Tell the governor we're real proud.
Thank you. And thank you for your help in perfecting the legislation. We really appreciate it. Appreciate your support.
All right. So if you'll go ahead and tell us where we are in the bill number.
Okay. I'll just give you a general overview.
I know we're working with LC.
We're working with LC 336201.
All right.
LCS.
All right. 6201. Okay. All right. We're ready.
Okay, so there was a dual enrollment task force that was formed last year and that met for 5 months, really with the goal of removing barriers to student participation in dual enrollment and to create additional opportunities for students to be dually enrolled. The task force was made up of members from the General Assembly. Representative Nix was on the task force, as well as Representative Terry England. There were K through 12 principals and superintendents, leaders from career academies, the Professional Standards Commission, the Georgia Department of Education, the State Board of Education, the university system, the technical college system, Georgia Student Finance, and the Governor's Office of Student Achievement were all involved in the work of the task force. The recommendations of the task force were, number one, to eliminate confusion and misunderstanding about dual enrollment by streamlining multiple dual enrollment pathways into one pathway that is called Move On When Ready. You may remember that the Move On When Ready legislation was passed by Speaker Pro Tem Jones a few years ago. And this legislation, though, keeps that name as the one dual enrollment program, but it changes the components of the program, sort of pulling the best elements out of all the existing dual enrollment programs. The second recommendation from the dual enrollment task force was to remove transportation as a barrier to dual enrollment by creating transportation grants, and that's something that will be included in next year's amended budget. To remove the purchase of textbooks as a barrier to participation. This is something we often hear from local school systems, that this is a barrier for high school students, is buying college textbooks when they're dually enrolled. And so instead, this requires the post-secondary institutions to provide the textbooks at no charge to the student. A per credit hour book fee will be provided to the institutions, and depending on the system, this can be done in different ways. Within the technical college system, it's actually fairly easy because all of their courses have common textbooks across the entire system, and so in that case, doing things like a lending library or those types of things are much easier. It's more difficult in the university system and in the independent colleges across the state because obviously they don't have common textbooks. The fourth recommendation was to remove the payment of non-course related fees as a barrier to participation. As you know, a number of the public institutions in the state have what's called an institutional fee, and that ends up being a barrier for high school students being dually enrolled, and this requires those institutions to waive those non-course related fees. So if the fee is a specific fee for the course, if they're taking a welding course that has a fee required, or they're taking a science course that has a lab fee, the student would still be required to pay that, but this is the institutional fee that's in place at our public institutions. The fifth recommendation was to enhance parent and student understanding of dual enrollment by requiring that the dual enrollment information and materials be provided to each 8th grade student during the time the student is developing his or her individual graduation plan. You'll remember, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a requirement that 8th grade students develop a high school graduation plan, and this just requires, as part of that process, that students and parents are informed about their dual enrollment options. And then the sixth recommendation was to include language in the legislation that promotes fair and seamless awarding of credit. So that's the gist of the recommendations, the gist of what the bill does. The changes from what was passed out of subcommittee last week are found on line 91, and these changes were requested by the members of the subcommittee. Yesterday, the House passed Senate Bill 2, which was a piece of legislation championed by the Lieutenant Governor, and it deals with awarding of post-secondary credit and high school credit to students who are in their junior and senior year of high school. We, in putting forth this legislation, incorporated some of the language from Senate Bill 2 in order to be clear that there's no conflict between the two pieces of legislation. We're all on the same page. We're all trying to get more students dually enrolled. But there were just some questions from the committee that they wanted clarified and asked for specific language to do that. And so on line 91, the language there was added to say the State Board of Education, in consultation with the State Board of the Technical College System of Georgia and the Board of Regents of the University System, shall determine appropriate courses to meet these requirements. So this is just specifying the coordination that is needed between the three education systems in determining courses that are appropriate to meet both high school graduation requirements and post-secondary requirements for dually enrolled students. And then on line 95, it previously said that the Department of Education shall specify the subject area requirements or electives, and instead that language was changed to the Department of Education shall communicate to high schools the specific subject area requirements. So this just clarifies the expectation for clear communication to the high schools of dually enrolled students and potentially dually enrolled students about their appropriate course selection to effectively meet both their high school and post-secondary requirements.
That's basically it. I want to ask you one question that I have 3 questions for you here. One thing we mentioned that we took out in the House in Senate Bill 2, we talked about it. There's no conflict with that 16, the age. So that was never in your bill. So there's no conflict anywhere with what we did to the Senate Bill 2 that would affect.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. So there, we never had an age requirement. We talked about this in subcommittee. We
Right.
don't believe that there should be an age requirement, that students should truly be able to move on when they are ready, and that the student and their parents should, they're in the best place to know when a child is ready.
Right. Okay, and I have questions. So the first one that was on here was, I think it's Representative Nix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I thank y'all for bringing this bill. I was on that committee, and that was probably one of the best collaborative efforts I have ever seen in education. We had the Chancellor Huckabee, we had Commissioner Jackson or his representative, had the Governor's Office, the Finance Committee, the people from Hope, the superintendents, the appropriations chairs from the House and the Senate, and there was a lot of give and take for everybody, and I really appreciate that. Is that not true, Mr. Chairman?
That is so true, and what a wonderful question. Number 15, Representative Stovall.
I'd like to thank you all for presenting this bill. I do have a question, and I know you mentioned earlier about SB2, which we passed out of the House, I think it was yesterday. But if I had to explain to a parent the difference between that bill, SB2, and this one, what would you recommend, or what would the wording that would be? Because like they kind of overlapping, and I have parents always asking about how can I advance my student. So how will I be able to explain to them on being able to choose between the two, or how it would be beneficial for them?
It's a great question. The two come together very nicely. So there's no conflict, there's no having to choose between the two, but they do two separate things. So this bill removes a lot of the barriers that stand in the way right now for students being able to be dually enrolled. It removes that, it's going to put money in the budget to cover some of the transportation costs, so that some local systems can transport students to the higher ed institutions. It requires the post-secondary institutions to waive the institutional fee, which is a fee that students have had to pay previously when they were dually enrolled. And then it requires them to make the books available to students. So all of those things have currently been existing financial barriers for high school students being dually enrolled, and Senate Bill 132 removes those barriers. It also then states, has a lot about the awarding of credit, and it essentially allows students to be dually enrolled, and then where it's appropriate for those courses to count both for their high school graduation requirements and post-secondary requirements. Senate Bill 2 specified specific programs that when students complete those programs, so when they complete an associate's degree, when they complete diploma programs with industry certification, then the State Board of Education automatically has to say that those students have met the requirements, and that's the language that's folded into this bill.
I have a follow-up question.
You may, go ahead.
So I want to, like I said, I want to make sure, because when I saw both of them, I was like, it's almost the same thing. And so, if you had a student that's, I know we took the age out, but just say they've completed the first 2 years of high school and all the basic requirements with English, math, and all those things, and a parent had to decide whether to allow them to follow the SB2, process, or whether to leave them. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, with the SB2, that allows them to actually go to the college on campus without having to come back to their high school campus, whereas this one, they would end up being at the college campus and maybe coming back to the high school. I guess that's what I keep getting confused about.
They both actually could allow for both. And so this is done differently all across the state, and it's really what fits best into the local context. And so in some high schools around the state, technical college instructors will come into the local high school, and they will teach technical college courses that can satisfy students both high school and their post-secondary requirements. In other places, high school students leave their high school campus, they go to a technical college, or they go to a university system institution, or they go to one of our private, HOPE-eligible private institutions in the state, and they take these courses. And so, and then in other places, they're in a career academy, and they're taking a course in a career academy. So it really looks very different across the state, depending on the local context.
This just allows a lot of flexibility. All right. Next, Representative Dixon.
I would also add there are instances where university system folks are teaching college credit courses in
the high schools.
In the high schools,
right.
Going to them. So it.
And there are some places that do it digitally. So we have, some Barrow County has had a program where they have professors from Georgia Tech that are then teaching, and they're digitally providing that within their high school.
You mentioned transportation. I don't see that in the bill anywhere. Is it there?
It's not. It will be in the amended budget.
Do we have a plan?
We do have a plan. I think the recommendation from the committee was to it will be an appropriation of funds that local districts can then apply for transportation grants to meet the specific needs within their district. And so we'll work with you and the appropriations folks on what is the right amount of that and what is the demand from local systems related to transportation grants. And there was a lot of conversation about how to handle transportation and what was the best way to handle it, and this was what was decided. And so a local district may decide that they have enough students that they want to have a bus that leaves at a certain period of the day and goes to the technical college system, and if so, this would allow them to apply to the Department of Education to receive a grant in order to cover those transportation services.
Representative Jones, or Speaker Pro Tem Jones's bill, also allowed a student to go, say, from Dalton all the way down to Georgia Southern. Right. We're not envisioning that we're going to get involved in transportation at that level. So how are we going to put those limits on?
So it would all be done through a grant process, and so local districts would apply to the Department of Education with all those parameters about where it is that they're going to be transporting students. But most likely, it's obviously going to be to the institution that's in closest proximity to that high school.
So those parameters are going to be put on by State Department rule. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
With no oversight? I mean, will we have a chance to review those?
Absolutely. We can work together on exactly how that works. The recommendation coming out of the task force was to do this by grant. I would tell you there were all kinds of things talked about. Do they give gas cards? Do they choose students? What is the most appropriate way to do that? And this is what the task force landed on, is it was best to do it as a grant, that the General Assembly would appropriate the amount of money that they wanted to put towards this, and local districts could apply to that. And so we look forward to working with you on exactly what that is through the budget process.
Thank you.
Sir.
Any other question? All right. Next, I have Representative Benton.
A question was asked.
Sir?
Question was asked.
All right. Good. Then I have Representative Chandler.
Thank you. Aaron, help me with this, because I still can't conceptualize this. This is what we have called dual enrollment. What is the difference in what, or maybe let me ask it a little differently. It seems to me that what was passed yesterday in SB2 and this, as far as coursework that kids could take and get credit, transfer it back into the high school and graduate, are basically the same.
They are. They're very similar. I mean, what SB2 provided, it originally, so yesterday you took out the age requirement.
All the things took out the age.
Have to complete through 10th grade still? Okay.
That's right.
So what SB2, this bill opens it up for any student in high school. So a student could be in 9th grade and they could be dually enrolled in a course. Under SB2, it's essentially what it allows is a student, after the student's sophomore year in high school, they can go on and earn an associate's degree at the technical college system that's also satisfying their requirements for high school graduation. So they are the same thing. This one is broader in the sense that it opens it up to all high school students, and it opens up for any course that they want to take, and it allows them to earn credit in both post-secondary and high school for those courses. They're going to have to satisfy their high school graduation requirements, and that's in the bill, but it allows them to take those courses at the post-secondary level.
So the coursework is basically the same, what they're eligible to take.
Thank you. All right. I have another question. Representative Dixon.
Just as a follow-up, is it safe to assume that Betsy did both of these bills?
It is safe to assume that.
Is it safe to assume then, Betsy, that you've taken these two bills and made sure that we're not going to pass something in one bill and then turn right around and change it in the next one? Is there any overlap of these two bills where one bill is going to change what the other bill just did?
No.
directly from there and adapted for this. So
That's right.
there's no conflict.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. That answer your question?
Yeah, did you use Representative Dudgeon's thing to compare the two? Or
The amended computer program, yeah. Okay, thank you. I tell you, as much as Betsy works this thing, she's doing her sleep. I guarantee you. I have a question from number 26. Where is that? Oh, Representative Nix.
That's me, and I want to make another statement. Is that not true?
In the form of question. Is that not true? Yes, sir.
And to Representative Chandler, the big difference in SB2 is, prior to SB2, the local school boards did not have to accept the courses that a student would take to get a professional certification or licensure. They could go and take those courses, but they did not have to give them a diploma for going and doing that. The main thing SB2 does is says, if you go, and a lot of those courses may count as well for high school credit. But prior to SB2, if I understand it,
You're right.
if you went over there and took a couple of welding courses or you finished that program, your local school did not have to give you credit for 2 years of education towards your graduation.
That's right.
If I'm not mistaken, that is the primary thing that SB2 did. Is that not true?
Yes, sir, that is true.
Good question. All right. Representative Dudgeon.
I'll wait.
He waves. All right, we have all the questions answered. Do I have any more questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move to pass.
I have a do pass, I have a do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Senator, would you like to say anything before we go? We're about to take a vote.
No, Mr. Chairman.
You don't?
I'm just glad I was able to answer all y'all's questions
You
as
did.
thoroughly as I did.
Senator, you just did a marvelous job.
Presentation we've had all year.
Best one, I want to tell you, I'm glad you're carrying my bill, because, baby, you get it through. I like that. All right, we called the question, we're taking the vote. All in favor of the, and I guess it's the substitute, LC 336201-ECS, would say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. It's passed, so we're in rules. You'll need to come to rules at least the first time, and you'll be carrying it on the floor.
I would prefer Mrs. Hames carry it, but I'll settle for Representative Nimmer.
The senator from the 181st.
The judge was going to say that the representative from the 181st.
The representative from the 181st, yeah. We won't do that to you. All right, thank you, and y'all did a good job. I'm going to tell you, I'm excited about these bills, Representative Nix. And I don't know if y'all know, but Representative Nix, Representative Jones, and Special Representative Nix has worked himself to death over the last 4 or 5 years on this, and so I want to commend you and commend how it's all coming together. Thank y'all so much. It's a good one. All right, next we have two more bills now. Let's look at Representative James. Senator, I was making you a really important representative. Come on up, Senator James. 176, Senate bill, is that correct? How you feeling, better today? Good. All right. This came out of Valerie Clark's committee, I think. Is that correct, Representative Clark? Is this coming out of your committee? What's your number, your mic number? 27, all right.
Same as her age.
We had an exciting meeting yesterday because Joyce Chandler was the chair.
Good. Okay, Representative Chandler, what was the recommendation?
It was unanimously do pass.
All right. So, Reverend James, and we appreciate, like I say, just moving on, and brevity is appreciated. So you go ahead. It's a good bill. All right. I have my helmet on today, so let's go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson and members of the committee. I thank you for allowing me to present Senate Bill 176 to the whole committee today. This is a bill that originated from 5,000 signatures being delivered to my Senate office the last week of the session last year. And they were parents and teachers from Banneker High School and from Creekside High School, both in the 35th district, which is my district. And they had a scrimmage earlier that year, and this young man, DeAndre Gregory Thurman, who was the star football player, had a tragedy in a scrimmage where he lost his life. And the autopsy report showed that the helmet was of poor quality and he received brain injuries and a broken neck as a result of not having proper helmet. So we did research over the summer, and we wanted to bring this bill that would provide an avenue to try to protect our children when they go and play sports. And this bill would provide just that avenue to protect them, because there's nearly 3,000 brain injuries that occur every year to players in football. And this is the second leading cause of traumatic brain injuries in the United States. And I said I'd be brief, so I will. I'll just get to the point. We worked with the Senate, and we're presenting this bill that would basically encourage an extra requirement for concussion prevention for players of gridiron football. And the bill would strongly encourage that all players of gridiron football, as an activity to the local board of education or non-public elementary or secondary school governing body or charter school or public recreation facility, to wear a helmet that is designed for gridiron football. And from our studies, the Virginia Tech helmet rating is the helmet rating that's used across the country, and it's between 1 and 4. But for gridiron football, they say 4 or 5 or higher. And so that's why this would encourage, strongly encourage all the people who purchase football helmets for their teams to use.
We have several questions, so that's 19. Representative Glanton, you were first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, thank you so much for bringing this. I think this is important that we do to maintain the safety of our young people as they participate in athletics, and so I certainly appreciate what you're trying to do here. My question is, last year I believe Representative Pruitt introduced a bill concerning concussions, and I believe that was a bill heavily supported by the NFL.
And we had a extensive study committee looking at that too.
And we had a study. Now, in those recommendations from the study committee, as well as in Representative Pruitt's bill, did it address the actual dimensions of the helmets and those kind of things? Okay, so this would be an add to level of safety for that. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other question? Thank you. All right, next I had on the agenda here was 28. Do you have a question?
No, mine.
All right. I think your buttons,
Ours are both still on.
you both are off now?
Yes, sir.
You don't have one, Representative Clark, either?
I'm still on, sir.
Oh, you're still on. I got you. There, I got them. All right, number 26, that's Representative Nix.
Senator, I have a question. What other kind of football is there besides gridiron football? I've never heard of anything when you play football. We played on the gridiron. Can you explain that?
Well, I'm sure that's probably the only one. And so this is how they describe football that's played in high school and in gridiron. So that's as opposed to
Soccer.
smaller.
Oh.
Soccer is referred to as football.
Yeah, soccer in other countries is referred to as football, but it is, we don't call it.
That's new to me. That's a good question, because that's new to me, too. That's a good one. Betsy, could you research? No. Courtney, I don't have Courtney here. We'll get that research. I don't have Courtney give us another question, Representative Nix?
No.
Representative Dixon, coach of the wonderful. All right, Coach. Representative Dixon.
Do we know what, and right behind you is a fellow who could probably answer the question, does the Georgia High School Association have a minimum standard for helmets?
Skip.
Do you have any kind of minimum standards currently in place?
Yeah, there's minimum standards, but there's different groups that rate helmets. But yes, they've got standards for helmet work for high school.
But it's not as strict as this?
Well, some people don't agree with that particular outfit.
In the subcommittee, I will say, with Representative Dixon, you remember there was a comment that there were other studies out there, and that some don't agree with that. And I've had several emails to that effect, yeah.
It's 20 different studies, but this is the one that's used by most.
Will the cost of this helmet be prohibitive for any groups?
The cost is between $149 all the way up to whatever you want to pay for it. I think 400.
So you don't
or anything for they go up to $800. Some NFL players kind of football.
You gonna tell them that today?
Yeah.
But this is the one that's been tested to
I'm have her come up here.
what happens when you're jolted
I wish I
and
had known.
when you're tackled. And so this is the
If they want.
But this just strongly urges them to use this or better, not just Virginia Tech helmet.
All right, Representative Clark?
Senator James, did you not say that there was about a $20 difference between the lower quality helmet and this helmet, this rating of helmet?
And then if you buy in bulk, of course, it's a greater reduced amount.
I see.
But if you were purchasing one, yes, it's about $20 difference.
Because if you buy any in bulk, it'd be cheaper, so we'd just say it's about, on a $100 scale, 20% higher, or maybe a little bit, $20 higher, yeah. I think we, that was, I think, specified in your committee too, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Is your microphone turned off? Is the button, okay,
Is it on?
that's better now.
Okay.
Any other 27?
That is.
That was you, okay. Anyone else? You have another question, Representative Clark?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? I have no other questions. Let me make a little comment.
Yes, sir.
I am a member of a new committee that has been established by the House and Senate. It's a Georgia High School Association Oversight Committee. And matter of fact, we're meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And I plan to take this piece of legislation to them because I really feel, I'm going to be honest with you, I have a little concern, really get more bangs for our bucks because what you're doing here, we're recommending, I want to get somebody that can talk about this, and we're talking to them also about these students in with Senate Bill 2 and all being able to participate, and Chuck Martin has been chair of that, and also we have several senators, and I will get you the names and encourage you to talk to them. But what I'd like to do is take this and have an extensive, like I said, I'll be there, and if you want to come, fine. I plan to have a discussion with this on this bill.
That's tomorrow.
And to me, that's where I personally believe that would be the most bangs for our bucks, and encourage them to really look at this whole thing, with you.
This has been also vetted by some of the, for example, Dewey McClain, who played football with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, Dewey was talking about us today. We're talking about it today.
As well as Demetrius Douglas, representative.
Right.
And then, of course, this is going to be carried on the House side if you pass it by Representative Mabry, who also has had experts. And then I have Lauren.
Yeah.
She represents some of the people who were concerned about this.
Yeah.
And you want to, can she
No,
say something?
I don't. Not
Okay, but they had looked at it.
I have talked with them. I have talked with them. They met with me personally, and we've talked with them.
And they said since it was urging, it would be an educating thing for most schools. And in fact, since this happened in the Fulton County schools, many of the schools have on their own taken the initiative to get rid of those helmets and buy those that are 4 or 5. Some of them are using 5 ratings instead of 4.
So I plan to take it to them tomorrow anyway, and talk with them about it.
Thank you.
But it's going to be up to the committee now. So you've heard the bill. I see no more question. I just want to. I have one down here. Okay.
I'm just going to make a motion to do pass.
Okay. You have a motion to do pass. I have a motion to do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay, we're moving it forward, okay?
Thank you very
And I
much.
still, again, I plan to take it to that group, and then we'll go see where it goes from there.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to go along if you.
Well, if you will, and I want to get with your senator that's on that committee, and I'll get with you tomorrow, and we'll talk about who that is.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
and thank you, committee,
thank you.
and Mr. Mabry will carry it on your side.
It's Charlie Bethel, Senator Bethel.
Oh, yes, he's the one that spoke on this bill.
Yes, so get with him, because it's going to be, his committee's meeting tomorrow, he and Charlie and Chuck Martin, so.
Well, I'm glad, because he's the one that took this bill and made two changes for me.
Okay, we'll get with him tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Running Mabry.
Yeah.
Representative Mabry.
Mabry's carrying it, right?
But I'll come to the rules myself
All
if
right.
you want me to.
Okay, well, but what I'm saying, we'll you know where it's going tomorrow, too, and then we'll go to rules, all right?
Thank you, sir.
All right, now, see, the last bill we have for today's agenda is Senate bill, and it's 164. Representative Nix is carrying that for him. Would you like to do it there, or? You could, what's your number? 26, all right, you're on, okay?
Thank you.
Sir? You're there, and you said you act like a senator. I don't agree. I think you're more like a governor, all right?
I didn't think you talked that way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Jones is away. We got delayed, and he apparently had some other business, but I think this is important enough. I'd like to go ahead and ask the committee to consider it. This is pretty simple. It's like the legislation we just did. It's not mandating anything, but it is highly recommending that schools that are high-need schools, which it describes with a climate rating of 1-star or 2-star, install or use the positive behavior intervention systems and supports, and also the response to intervention framework for identifying and assessing the needs in their schools. As you well know, Mr. Chairman, I've been involved working on the PBIS program, and think that is really good, and would certainly recommend it to any school system. But to these school systems that are having difficulties, their climate rating is low, I believe this is a good idea, and hopefully will be an educational piece to get them to consider this, and would certainly like the committee's favorable consideration of this legislation. It is not a mandate, but it is urging them to use the PBIS system.
And this has been a good program. I think some money was added to the budget, and I think the program's there. So, Representative Dixon?
Well, you just said what I was going to say.
sorry.
We did actually increase the appropriation in the House budget, and I think the Senate added a few more dollars over and above what the House had put in for PBIS.
And even though you called me a senator a while ago, I still like you because you did that.
Well, actually, I was even going to say that you actually did a better job presenting the incentives.
Hey, Representative Gladden?
I'm just going to make a motion.
Representative Gladden's going to make a motion, all right? You're in order for a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to pass.
I have a motion passed, do pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, now listen to what I'm about to say. It's very important. We have one more piece of legislation that's pending. I do not want to call another long meeting. Be ready tomorrow for a possible call, and give me the
Senate Bill 89.
Senate Bill 89. Please look at it. There may be a call for that tomorrow, immediately upon, not adjournment, but if we break for lunch, it'll be right there, and it'll probably be in the anteroom, or it'll be somewhere right around there, and if not, but I'll let you know in the morning. But we got to do it tomorrow if we're going to do it. And this is the last meeting, other than possibly that one. I want to let everyone know. Is there anyone that would like to make if you haven't paid your dues, now listen, your name will be pasted outside the Rules Committee. Representative Benton left, but remember, we do dues because you will find next week, Representative, all the chairs will tell you this, there will be people coming around asking for $10 to $15 from you. Bring $100 or $200 because you're going to need it. We don't do that in our committee because we bugged you all year. Ours is good, so we've already got ours. So please do that. And I want to thank, I'd like all my committee, I want to thank Betsy and our staff and all of you, Venus, Sheen, and all of them, for what they've done. They have been so good. And I want to thank Courtney right here, who's right here with us. Let's thank her. I tell you, we have the best staff in the world. And Vina, we're going to miss you, too, going back to school. I told her she went to Georgia State. I'm sorry, it's Georgia this morning. But I'm so proud. And if they ever try to take Betsy away from me or Shane, I'm going to protest. So, but I appreciate what they've done. And thank all of you. And so if you would make a motion, Amy, to adjourn, I'd appreciate it. We are adjourned. Thank y'all so much.